Hello, everyone, and welcome to the new episode of Advertising Europe. Today, we have the great pleasure to welcome Tim Williams. Tim is a worldwide recognized business and pricing strategy expert. Tim is a guru and has developed a philosophy, thought, and actually an advocacy for creating new revenue model for agencies. Dear Tim, thank you very much again to be with us, even if it's virtual, because I think you're literally one ocean away from us.
Yeah.
Thanks again for having accepted to participate in what we will try to make a short version of Advertising Europe.
I'm pleased to be invited to join you, Christian. Thank you.
Of course, I've got a few questions really dying to ask you. You are strongly advocating for what you call a new revenue model for agency. Can you explain to us how it differs from what we know, the traditional cost-driven compensation approach that so many agencies are still using today?
Well, my view is that agencies actually don't have a revenue model. We only have a cost structure. Having a schedule of hourly rates and adding up our time and sending the client a bill is simply a reflection and manifestation of our internal costs. Whereas client organizations have a whole series of innovative ways that they price their products and services. So we're simply suggesting that agencies do what their clients do, which is find diversified revenue streams that extend beyond input-based or cost-based pricing. So actually the task is to develop a revenue model in place of a cost structure or in addition to.
But do you think this new revenue model is sustainable? Because it needs, of course, a lot of changes also on the client side? Or do you think it is just a short-term fix to help raise the profitability and, of course, re-attract talents and create a virtuous circle? What's your view on that?
I think it's actually a requirement for us to have a sustainable business to develop, to change our revenue model. Unless we find a way to make our business more scalable, we won't have much of a business in the future because our business is increasingly being taken over by, this is a bit of an overstatement, but artificial intelligence, machine learning is going to find ways to do more and more of what we used to charge by the hour. And so we're going to be forced to find other ways to monetize what we do. So my answer is, in terms of sustainability, this is not a flash in the pan. This is a long-term change that is coming to our business. And my view is better to be on the vanguard, the leading edge than the trailing edge in terms of the health of your own individual agency.
Tim, I've heard you saying we should sell solution, not services. And in the same time, it seems that the very traditional agency model resists change, still selling services on time base. What do you think it will take to break the resistance? And I'm not talking about clients here. I'm talking about internal agency resistance.
Well, as we all know, humans we're famously resistant to change. I don't know that it's unique to agencies, but to me, the central paradigm shift is that we need to come to grips with the idea that we're actually not in the service business. I know that sounds like heresy because we've all been taught you're in the service business. Your job is to be responsive to your clients. I actually think we're in the intellectual capital business. We're in the business of expertise. We're in the business of solving client problems, business problems. And when we have the mentality that we're in the service business, it puts us in a reactive mindset in which clients tell us what to do and we react. We've lost a lot of the proactive thought leadership that we used to provide to clients back in the days when we weren't charging for time and we had other revenue streams. I think it's important to remember that it wasn't always this way. The hourly rate appeared on the scene in the early 1980s. Prior to that, agencies were not dependent on a time-based revenue structure.
And to that point, when you look at other sectors, other businesses, do you see very good, inspiring model of other businesses with have a dynamic, a multi-facet pricing structure, and how agencies can actually adapt to these kind of models?
I think we can take our inspiration from the rest of the business world. There has been a pricing revolution globally over the last 20 years in which our client companies have experienced an explosion of innovation and creativity in pricing. They've developed things like subscription pricing, licensing, usage, outcome-based pricing. I mean, let's take, for example, outcome-based pricing is being used in farming, where the seed companies are selling their seed at a minimal price and taking most of their income based on how successful was the crop. Did you have a good harvest? We'll take a percent of that. So there's innovation being applied everywhere except professional services. We're stuck in an industrial age model that literally is over 150 years old.
We see the obvious financial benefit of moving to the model you are advocating, the new revenue model, but what are the other benefits beyond just raising the P&L and the EBIT ratio, particularly today in the context of the talent war that we are facing, where it's extremely difficult to attract talent, and it's extremely more difficult to attract talent in our industry, which is a battle, as president of the EACA, I fight every day.
Yeah. Well, we have to remove our self-imposed profit ceiling. We have a model in which we take the total number of billable people times the total number of billable hours for the year. We do the math, and it gives us the total maximum amount of revenue that we can earn, which is a pretty crazy business model. I mean, no other business would limit the amount of money or profit it can earn, but we do. And so it makes it so we don't have a scalable business model. The only way we can add more revenue is to add more people, and that by definition is not, that's the opposite of scaling. So my thought is that for us to have the margins we need to reinvest in our business, and of course be able to afford world-class talent, we have to make these changes to our business model. We've got to remove our self-imposed profit ceiling. Otherwise, we will never be able to compete directly with large client organizations for talent.
We are a very fast-changing business, but the world is fast-changing, and particularly since the COVID, it has accelerated. This talent war was not so much a war 3 years ago. The way people envisage work and their relationship to the office has changed. Not to talk about artificial intelligence. If we have 1 minute left after, we will talk about that. What do you see as the main or the biggest threats facing the advertising industry today? And in your view, with all your experience with being an independent and also having worked with global companies, how agencies should prepare themselves for this threat and should react to it?
Well, AI would be at the top of my list. It is, we all know, already very disruptive. We talk about the disintermediation of our business, where pieces of what we do get peeled off and done in more cost-effective ways. I mean, AI is going to certainly continue to do that. I'll come back to my theme in terms of what is the biggest threat. My answer is the lack of scalability in the agency business model is the biggest threat. Our clients will continue to be able to attract the talent that we wish we had and pay them twice the salaries because they are able to increase their revenues without increasing their expenses. We can't do that. So I'll come back to scalability or lack of scalability is the biggest threat to our business. We must change our business model to be healthy in the future. the work of, this has been well documented. The decline in agency revenues and profitability has been underway for 3 or 4 decades. And it's been a steady decline year after year. That is an unsustainable trajectory for us.
We've briefly spoken or touched base with AI, and particularly with the emergence of ChatGPT. Nobody knew what it was 6 months ago, and it's the talk of the town. What do you see the impact of such a technology could be on the advertising industry in terms of what we do, but also in terms of how many people we employ, obviously?
Yeah. Yes, I think that we've experienced just the tip of that iceberg. It seems like half the headlines in the business and trade press are all about AI now, aren't they? So it's getting our attention. Suddenly, every conference, every industry conference now is about AI, and so both a threat and an opportunity. The obvious challenge is, if you have a time-based business model, how do you charge for what AI does? You can't bill by the nanosecond. It makes no sense to charge for the cost of the service. You have to charge for the value that the service provides. So if you look at what AR does and can do, we have to then attach a price that is creating for the client, which is the exact same thing I'm advocating for other things we do as an agency. Let's price it based on the value that is created for the buyer, not the cost to the seller. And this is not so revolutionary, by the way. People in our business, when they hear the title value-based pricing, they react as though it's some new thing that will be impossible to do. And I think it's good to remind ourselves that actually we're the outlier. We're the professional services. We're kind of all by ourselves. The rest of the business world already prices in the ways that we teach. So we're simply advocating, let's adopt modern pricing. It's nothing experimental or revolutionary. It's simply pricing as practiced by the rest of the business world, which has the view that pricing should be done top down, not bottom up. We have this approach where we start with the cost and then we set the price and then we hope that has value to the customer. The rest of the business world does it just in the opposite sequence. They start with the customer, ask the question, what's the potential value? They set the price, and then they figure out the costs, which is exactly backwards from our approach and mindset. There are entire books written about this. Most agency professionals have never read a single book on pricing. So it stands to reason we feel like we're always on the defense with procurement professionals, but it's because they know our business and we don't know theirs. So I believe it's time for our business to get up to speed with our client organizations in terms of pricing as a discipline, not just costing.
Thank you very much, Tim, for this awakening approach, this enlightening speech. And I think this call for just being paid what we are worth, and for the courage of talking in the right way to our clients about it. Thank you very much, Tim.
Great. Thank you, Christian.